At a family BBQ, my dad laughed and said, "You're grown now. Either start paying rent or move out." The very next day, I moved into my new house and calmly told them I'd no longer be covering any of their bills. The smiles vanished instantly. Their faces went pale because the sizzle of steaks on the grill hissed like a warning, sharp and insistent, but it couldn't drown out my father's voice as it cut through the warm July air. "Hey, Madison," he called, his smirk glinting like the edge of a knife. "You're old enough now. Pay rent or get out. This ain't a charity." The words landed like a slap, deliberate and cruel, meant to sting in front of everyone. My stepmother, Denise, let out a laugh that grated like sandpaper, and my half-brother Tyler leaned back in his lawn chair, cracking open another beer with a chuckle that said he was in on the joke. The paper plate in my hands buckled under my tightening grip, the edges crumpling as I fought to keep my face neutral. It wasn't just what he said, it was the stage he chose. Neighbors milled around the backyard, their plastic cups sweating in the heat, their eyes darting away like they hadn't heard. But they had. He'd made sure of it. I set the plate down on the picnic table, the wood rough under my fingers, and forced my voice to stay steady, though my pulse hammered in my throat. "You've been taking half my paycheck for years, Dad. I've been paying the bills." His face twisted into that exaggerated shrug, the one he used to mock me, his eyes gleaming with something mean. "That's life, kid. Don't like it? Find somewhere else to live." Tyler snorted, muttering, "Good luck with that," under his breath, his voice dripping with the smugness of someone who'd never had to fight for anything. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of charred meat and something uglier, betrayal, sharp and sour, curling in my chest. I could feel the neighbors' glances, their pity cloaked in polite disinterest. They expected me to shrink, to swallow the humiliation and cry later in my room like I always did. But not this time. Something in me had snapped, a taut wire finally breaking. I stepped closer to him, close enough to see the flicker of the grill's flames reflected in his eyes, close enough to smell the beer on his breath. "Fine," I said, my voice low, sharp enough to cut through his smirk. "You want me gone? You'll get your wish." He laughed, waving his tongs like I was a mosquito, buzzing too close. "Yeah? And where you gonna go, Madison? Back to that dump of an apartment you couldn't keep?" His words were meant to wound, to remind me of the lease I'd lost 2 years ago when I'd funneled every cent into his house, his bills, his life. But he didn't know. He didn't know about the months I'd spent scraping together savings in secret, the late nights researching listings, the quiet triumph of signing my name on a deed. He didn't know I'd gotten the keys to my own house just last week. The rest of the barbecue blurred into a haze of forced smiles and whispered gossip, the neighbors' murmurs buzzing like flies around the edges of my awareness. But inside, my mind was electric, plans snapping into place like puzzle pieces. If he wanted me out, I'd go, farther than he could imagine. And I wouldn't just take my things. I'd take the comfort he thought he owned, the control he'd wielded over me for years. I went to bed that night not with tears, but with a fire in my chest, burning steady and sure. The next morning, I loaded the last box into my car, the cardboard edges digging into my palms. My hands trembled, not from sadness, but from the rush of what was coming, a reckoning I'd been building toward for months without even realizing it. I drove to my new place, a small 2-story house with white siding and a wraparound porch that creaked softly under my steps. The air here smelled cleaner, like fresh-cut grass and possibility, not the stale resentment of my father's house. By noon, I stood in my new kitchen, the deed in my name resting on the counter, its crisp edges catching the sunlight. I sent a text to my dad, short and final. "I've moved out. The bills are yours now." It didn't take long. Within an hour, my phone lit up with his number. I let it ring, the sound sharp and insistent, like his voice at the barbecue. Then Denise called, her name flashing on the screen like a warning. I let that ring too, watching the screen until it went dark. By dinner, I heard the growl of a truck pulling up outside. I peered through the blinds and saw my father stepping out, his face pale, his jaw tight as a clenched fist. Denise trailed behind, her lips pursed like she'd bitten into something sour. I stepped onto the porch, the wood cool under my bare feet, and leaned against the railing, arms crossed. You're not serious, Dad said, his voice low, almost pleading. You can't just walk away. I told you, I said, my voice sharper than I expected, slicing through the evening air. You said pay rent or get out. I chose get out. And now I'm done paying your bills. His face drained of color, his mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. Denise's lips parted, but no sound came. Behind them, Tyler's car idled, his silhouette slouched in the driver's seat, too spineless to even get out. For the first time, I saw it. The power I'd handed them for years, the weight I'd carried while they laughed. And I was only beginning to take it back. They drove off, their taillights fading into the dusk, and I stood on my porch, breathing deeply. It wasn't relief, not yet, just the first breath in years that didn't feel like I owed someone for it. Inside, I grabbed my laptop, the keys clicking under my fingers as I severed every tie they'd been feeding on. Electric bill, gone. Gas, internet, water, car insurance, all transferred out of my name. Each confirmation email felt like a brick in a wall I was building, my spine straightening with every click. My phone buzzed again. Dad, then Denise, then Tyler. I let them ring, their names flashing like ghosts I was done entertaining. By late afternoon, the group chat exploded. Dad, this isn't funny, Maddie. The Wi-Fi's down. Denise, you can't just shut things off. That's not how family works. Tyler, hope you're happy. You ruined dinner. I typed one reply, my fingers steady. I've moved out. Bills are your responsibility now. Don't show up uninvited. I thought that would be the end. But then I heard the truck again, its engine rumbling like a storm cloud. Dad got out, his jaw tighter than before. Denise followed, arms crossed, her eyes narrowed. Tyler stayed in the car, his cowardice as predictable as the sunset. Enough of this stunt, Dad said, stopping at the bottom of my steps. Turn the accounts back on for a week while we transition. I met his gaze, unflinching. Number. You've taken half my paycheck for years. You made it clear last night you want me .90. I'm gone, so is my money. Denise let out a bitter laugh, her voice cracking like thin ice. Wow. Cold. I stepped down, closing the distance between us. Cold as laughing at your kid in front of neighbors. This is warm compared to that. Dad's mouth opened, but nothing came out. For the first time, I saw hesitation in his eyes, a crack in the armor he'd worn for years. I turned back to the porch, my voice steady. You'll figure it out, just like I did. The door clicked shut behind me, the sound loud in the quiet evening, and I realized I was the one holding the lock now. The next morning, I woke to silence, the kind that doesn't exist in my father's house. No stomping boots, no blaring TV, no Denise yelling about a misplaced receipt. Just stillness, soft and unfamiliar. I made coffee in my bright kitchen, the steam curling into the sunlight streaming through the window, warming my hands. For a moment, I almost smiled until my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Call us. Urgent. Then Dad. The electric's off. Food's spoiling. Denise, if you care about this family, fix this today. I set the phone down, refusing to let their chaos seep into my morning. They were learning what I'd known for years. Bills don't pay themselves. By noon, a sharp knock broke the quiet. The camera showed Denise, sunglasses hiding half her face, her smile forced and brittle. I opened the door just a crack. What do you want? Her voice was syrupy, fake. We need the car insurance in your name for a few more days. Tyler's got an interview. I shook my head. It's my policy now, move to my address. If Tyler's driving, he needs his own. Her jaw twitched, her mask slipping. You're punishing us, I leaned against the doorframe, calm in a way that unnerved her. Number, I'm refusing to be punished anymore. She blinked, caught off guard. Your father's furious. He's only like this because of stress, the shop closing. I cut her off, my voice like steel. That shop closed 3 years ago. He's had 3 years to stop using me as a crutch. Her eyes hardened, her voice dropping. You'll regret this, sooner than you think. I closed the door without a word, the click echoing in my chest. That night, unpacking boxes into my living room, the soft glow of a lamp casting shadows on the walls, My phone lit up with an email from my bank. Suspicious login attempt detected. My stomach tightened. I logged in, finding multiple failed password attempts in a department store credit card opened in my name, linked to an address that wasn't mine. My mind flashed to last year, my purse missing in their house for 2 days, then reappearing with nothing gone, or so I thought. Tyler, I printed every email, every statement, and slid them into a folder labeled Boundaries in sharp black marker. This wasn't just about protecting myself anymore. It was about building a case. The next 2 days were too quiet, a tense stillness that set my nerves on edge. Tyler's texts dripped with sarcasm or veiled threats. Think you're better than us now. Watch your mailbox. I kept my replies short, documented everything, as my attorney had advised. By the third morning, the silence shattered. My phone buzzed as I sipping coffee, screenshots from friends flooding in, Denise's Facebook posts dripping with self-pity. Some people think they can turn their back on family. After all we've done, they leave us in the dark. Literally. The comments were predictable. Sympathy from mutual friends, questions from distant relatives. But they never named me, painting me as the villain without giving me a voice. I didn't take the bait. I called the utility companies, confirming every account was now in their names, leaving them no leverage. At noon, the doorbell rang. Dad stood on my porch, hands in his pockets, his calm voice edged with steel. We've got a situation. The mortgage payment's due, and without your transfer, I cut him off. Not my problem, his eyes narrowed. You've been part of this household for years. You don't walk away from responsibilities overnight. I laughed, sharp and humorless, the sound surprising even me. You mean the responsibilities you dumped on me when I started working? The ones you took without asking? He stepped closer, his voice low. You think this new place makes you better than us? That you can hide here while we drown? I held his stare. I'm not hiding, Dad. I'm done being your lifeline. He turned to leave, tossing one last jab. You'll regret this when you come crawling back. I closed the door slowly, the locks click, a small victory. Crawling back wasn't in my plans. That night, a neighbor from my old street called, voice hushed. They're arguing in the driveway. Something about the bank account being overdrawn. Denise is screaming, she can't buy groceries. I thanked them, hung up, and sat in the quiet, feeling the weight I'd carried for years now pressing down on them. The next day I went to the bank, closed the last joint account they could access, and added another paper to my folder. That evening, Denise texted, "You've made your point. Help us this month. We'll figure it out after." I didn't reply. Hours later, her public post appeared. Funny how people change when they think they don't need you. Life humbles everyone. She was right. Life does humble. And theirs was just beginning. A Saturday morning email from the mortgage company stopped me cold. Urgent. Past due balance, notice of public auction. My dad's house, 2 payments behind, set for auction in 30 days. I was still listed as an emergency contact from years ago. I printed the notice, sliding it into my folder. By noon, they were at my door. Dad red-faced, Denise tight-lipped, Tyler smirking. You saw the notice, Dad said, his voice loud enough to draw neighbors' glances. We can't lose the house, Maddie. You're going to help. I folded my arms. Number. Family doesn't use you as a wallet. Family doesn't laugh while you're humiliated. Family doesn't commit fraud in your name. Denise's eyes darted to the watching neighbors. Do you have to make a scene? Yes, I said, because you didn't mind when it suited you. Tyler muttered, unbelievable. I turned to him. Unbelievable is how long I let this go on. Dad's voice dropped, threatening. Walk away, and you're nothing to us. I smiled, cold and steady. Then I'll be nothing to you and everything to myself. I held up the foreclosure notice, its edges crisp in the sunlight. This is what happens when the person you've been draining stops bleeding for you. I let it fall to the porch, the paper fluttering at their feet, and closed the door. Through the blinds, I watched them stand there. Dad frozen, Denise glancing nervously, Tyler kicking the paper. They left without a word. That evening, I posted online. Sometimes the best gift you can give is the chance to stand on their own. Comments poured in, support, congratulations on my new place. I didn't name them. Their downfall wasn't my story anymore. It was theirs to live, and I was free to live mine.